Welcome to this walk through Philippians. Now we're in chapter 2, verses 25 to 27. In this section, Paul now turns his attention to Epaphroditus. He's been talking about Timothy. We see Timothy is modeling the life of Christ that we saw in the Christ hymn earlier in chapter 2. And now we see the same kind of qualities in Epaphroditus. So in our section, we have two sentences. The first one is verses 25 and 26. Anankaion de hegesamen Epaphroditon, ton adelphon kai synergon kai sustratioten mu, humon de apostolon kai liturgon tes creas mu, pempsai pros humas, epide, epipathon ein pantas humas, kai ademonon, dioti ecusita hoti eisthenesen. So just take it that far for now. And anankaion means necessary, perhaps a little bit emphatic there in the first part of the sentence. Hegeamai, where we have our aorist form here, sigma alpha showing the aorist with the augment. Hegeamai means to lead, or to think, or to consider. And main is the first singular ending, so I considered it necessary. Then this is picked up with the pempsai down here. Aorist infinitive. You see the hidden sigma in there and the psi ending. So if we look at this on a map, we can see it a little bit more clearly. So I considered it necessary to send. So to send, here's an epexegetic infinitive explaining the necessity. And to send Epaphroditon, Epaphroditus. So that's the direct object, that's the one he's sending. And you see the rest of this verse is all a set of words in apposition to Aphroditon. He is ton adelphon, the brother, and synergon, the fellow worker, and sustratioten mu, the fellow soldier. The mu here probably going with all three of those. And then we have de, which chunks this description, just like the de up here is chunking the larger description, moving from Timothy now to Epaphroditus. Now within this set of apposition, words in apposition to Epaphroditon, we have and your apostle, and liturgon tes creas mu, and your aid or assistant of my need. And so genitive here, probably genitive, objective genitive. So it's a beautiful little structure here. He's my brother and fellow worker and fellow soldier, and your apostle and assistant or aid. Liturgos, a minister or a servant, is how this is often translated. BDAG on page 591 says, primarily one who performs public service. In our literature, always with sacred connotations. And then he goes on in meaning number 2, one engaged in personal service. And that's what our usage is here, of course. And so aid or assistant. And he talks about a transferred sense of the first sense. And this would be heightening the status of the referent. That's BDAG 592. And you add to that the notion of apostle, which is somebody who's sent with a commission. And that would match the public service notion of the liturgos, even though here it's more personal service. So in other words, these two words show that Epaphroditus was helping Paul on behalf of the Philippians. He was sent, commissioned by them. He was their sent one. And he was this assistant, this aid, in a recognized form, equivalent to or similar to public service. So Epaphroditus was a Philippian that came to Paul's aid on behalf of the church in Philippi, and now Paul thinks it's necessary to send Epaphroditus back to them, pros humas, to you. And most scholars see this section here in verses 25 to 30 suggesting that Epaphroditus is the one who brings this letter itself to the Philippians. Well, why did Paul think it was necessary to send Epaphroditus back to them? Well, we get that in verse 26, epide, because epipothon ein, he was desiring. Potheo means to long for or to desire, and so epipotheo, the epi would have an idea of longing towards them. So we have the imperfect form of me here, so we have a periphrastic construction. So he was longing or desiring all of you. And ademonon, another participle, still in the periphrastic construction, I assume. So he was longing for all of you, and he was troubled or distressed. Why? Well, dioti, because ekousete, you heard, hoti estenesen, that he was weak or ill or sick. A couple of aorists here, as you can see from the sigma alpha and the augments and the sigma epsilon here. Sthenos means strength, and so this has an alpha on the front of it from astheneo, lacking strength, but used for being sick. Then our second sentence for today, kai gar esthenisen paraplesion thanato, al hatha as eleisen auton, ukauton de monon alakai eme, hina me lupain epilupain sko. So again, let's look at this in the map. Gar introducing an explanation for the kai here being the ascensive use. Indeed, for indeed he was sick. Paraplesion thanato. Paraplesios meaning near. Hellerman takes paraplesion as being used like a preposition, but Abbott Smith and Danker in both the large lexicon and the concise lexicon mention only the idea of the adverbial use, not a prepositional use. And the adverbial makes sense here. So he was sick, near to death. Now Siegel, in his article on paraplesion, gives the gloss close to and then adds with thanatos, critically ill. And I don't see that adds anything to our understanding. I think being sick near to death is a lot more graphic than critically ill. So this is an example of an unnecessary loss of force of the original language, the literal language, which is not necessary since near to death is clear enough and powerful enough in English. Anyway, for indeed he was sick, close to death, near to death. Then Allah gives us a contrast. He was near to death, but God, eleisen, had mercy on him. Another aorist. Had mercy on him, not him only, so and, not him alone or only, the adverbial use of the accusative here, but also me. The kai now being the adjunctive also. And we could have here in the map repeated eleisen, since that's assumed behind this construction here. Or we could just leave it this way, and it seems to me have this flow of the sense clear enough. But God had mercy on him, and not on him only, but also on me, hina me lupain, so that I might not have, sko, the aorist subjunctive from echo, so that I might not have lupain, grief, sorrow upon sorrow. So here we have a picture of Epaphroditus, who is very dear to Paul and to the Philippians, and the Philippians and Paul were dear to him as well. And he came close to death with this illness that he had, but his main concern was not so much for himself, it seems, but for the Philippians, and for concern that they had heard that he was sick. So again, we see not only Paul and Timothy, but now Epaphroditus sharing in the mind of Christ that we saw in the Christ hymn. And this description of Epaphroditus then will continue in the next section.